United legends aren't always flamboyant headline stealers. Sometimes they're your grafters, your bully boys, your stoppers. The men who follow instructions to the letter, putting themselves on the line and being the backbone of the side. Nobby Stiles was one such legend, a United warrior, but he was also much more than that. Anyone who saw him play, anyone who managed, played alongside or even against him, knew the Mancunian's ability to read the game exceptionally and play at a level that is rarely given credit for. So with all that in mind, let's get to know a little bit better this character beloved by all United and England fans, Nobby Stiles. Norbert Peter Stiles was born to a Catholic family in Collyhurst, Manchester during an air raid on the 18th of May 1942. The young Nobby excelled at football from a young age, playing for his school. Stiles played a lot more of an attacking and creative role as a kid, not as the holding midfielder we'd all get to know later on in his career. Football wasn't young Nobby's only sporting pursuit. He also took up boxing as well, which taught him character, discipline and how to throw a right hook when necessary. Like a surprising amount of elite or legendary footballers, he had to overcome physical adversity as he was afflicted with acute short-sightedness from a young age. He was also well below average height, and even when he turned pro, he never surpassed his 5'6" frame. Regardless, Nobby was never one to back down, give up or show any sort of weakness. He was afraid of nothing and no one. Nobby Stiles became captain of Manchester Schoolboys, but it was only after his England Schoolboys appearances did United take notice. Stiles signed apprenticeship forms at Old Trafford in September 1957. Even then he sported dentures to replace his missing teeth, which later gave him a distinctive ferocious look, and wore contact lenses when playing. Nobby turned pro in 1960 and made his debut as an inside forward in October of that year against Bolton. That would be his first of 395 appearances for United. Nobby was pretty much a regular from then on. United struggled badly in the 62-63 season, almost getting relegated, just a point from safety at the season's end, but they did reach the cup final against Leicester. However, Nobby was inexplicably dropped for Morris setters for the game. Sadly, it was the only medal that Nobby would miss out on. After that tumultuous topsy-turvy season, United were galvanised by that victory, and with the addition of George Best, the club's fortunes improved. Nobby was a massive contributor to that side's success, with his primary task of doing a lot of running, winning back possession and then distributing it to the players that Sir Matt had designated as more creative. Stiles had his role, he followed instructions and excelled at the task given. He had the humility to know his purpose and stick to it. His teammates and boss understood and appreciated his worth. The Collyhurst lad played in 59 of the 60 matches in the 64-65 campaign, as he collected his first winner's medal, a league title for that season. Nobby Stiles was a versatile defensive player for both club and eventually country, but he was so important to the side that he was even pushed up front on occasion to keep him in the team. Bobby Charlton said of him that he had a sixth sense for danger, would nip it in the bud. As mentioned at the start of the video, he could play, and unfairly gets tarnished with the tag of being thuggish, as someone who was around to simply kick the opposition. Both Sir Matt, with whom he won the European Cup, and Sir Ralph, who he won the World Cup with, would disagree. Sir Ralph declared they had 5 world-class players, and Nobby was one of them. Stiles was very quick over short distances, 10 to 15 yards. His tactic would be to stand off a play being tasked with focusing on, as if disinterested, then he would go in like a flash with full fury when the player received the ball. With his terrier-like ferocity and tenaciousness that wouldn't allow him to ever give up, he was often employed as a man marker on the opposition's danger man. He'd always let his opponent know he was there from the start. With his unbridled enthusiasm to win the ball, always vocal, chastising even his most illustrious teammates when necessary, the Mancunian never knew when he was beaten and was always determined to fight to the last. Due to the numerous traits I've just mentioned, as well as the success he'd already enjoyed for United, led him to being called up by England manager Sir Alf Ramsey in 1965, where he debuted in a 2-2 draw against Scotland. The United man would become a permanent fixture for the crucial next couple of years, playing 8 out of the next 9 matches. Nobby scored his only goal for his country after being pushed up front against West Germany in February 1966. Stiles had not only secured his place in the squad but also the starting lineup, and featured in every minute of England's run to the 66 final, starting with his 15th cap against Uruguay in the opening game. However, a very low point for Stiles during the tournament was when he was chastised by the press for this very late challenge on France's Jacques Simon going through the back of him. Whilst Nobby liked to put a foot in, he felt sick about this particular foul. The press were far less understanding, baying for Stiles to be dropped. The FA even called the manager to make sure it happened. However, Sir Alf Ramsey stood by his man and replied in private that he would resign and take his coaching staff with them if he weren't allowed to pick him for the next match. Drawn against the mighty Eusebio and Portugal in the semi, Sir Alf took the terrier to one side and said, "Norbert, I want you to take Eusebio out." He replied, "Do you mean for the game, Alf, or for good?" The Portuguese legend didn't get a kick. Sir Alf rarely praised any of his players publicly after matches, but singled out Nobby after that game for the job he'd done. It wouldn't be the last time he'd have Eusebio in his pocket. On to the final, and whilst the game wasn't about him, his contribution to break up play and stop the West Germans' flow was still of key importance in the side's 4-2 victory. However, the England man's highlight for many fans is his jig around Wembley at the end of the game that endeared him to a nation. However, after some knee injuries 2 years after that, Nobby lost his place and dropped down the pecking order. He retained his place in the squad for the 1970 World Cup defence in Mexico, but only as cover and didn't play. This would be the last year of him representing his country. Following his World Cup success in June '66, he was back to his bread and butter work, helping United win matches and silverware. The boys took home the First Division title that season and prepared at the beginning of the 67-68 campaign to have another assault on the European Cup. After victories in Cyprus, Yugoslavia and Poland, the boys edged out Real Madrid to set up a dream final against Benfica. It was Stiles versus Eusebio, Part 2. Again, Nobby, by fair means or foul, never let the Portuguese maestro have a kick in the match. He marked Eusebio out of the game, and by nullifying Benfica's best player, the opposition petered out as Charlton Best and Kidd scored the goals to give United, Nobby and Samat their first European trophy. The Collyhurst lads' contribution was priceless. Nobby played far fewer matches in his last 2 years at the club due to 2 cartilage operations on his knee, and was subsequently 8 months out of the game. Samat moved him on to Middlesbrough in May '71 as he was just turning 29, where he remarkably dropped down a division. However, what was something that was inexplicable was that Nobby Stiles didn't even get a testimonial for his 11 years service as a senior player. This was not an era when footballers earned a lot of money. A testimonial for a decade's worth of long service was crucial to them keeping their families going as they looked for a career pivot after retiring. United's behaviour to its servants, and they were servants then, was cringeworthy, despicable, but not uncommon. But Nobby didn't complain. He was a chirpy yet dedicated soldier, accepted his move, and never lost the passion for the club he loved. After retirement, he managed at Preston, Vancouver Whitecaps and West Brom over an 8-year period, before deciding that football management wasn't for him. In '89, he returned to Old Trafford as a youth coach and had a profound effect on the development of players such as Ryan Giggs, the rest of the class of '92 and beyond. He saw himself very much in Nicky Butt's style of play. He left that role in 1993. In 2000, Nobby received an MBE for his '66 success and entered the English Football Hall of Fame in 2007. However, in 2010, he sold all his medals to financially help his family. For a change, the United hierarchy came through and made sure that they outbid everyone for all of his medals. He was given the medals back by the club, but he then immediately donated them to the Manchester United Museum, where they're on permanent display. Nobby was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2013, which was then followed by several strokes and the greater onset of Alzheimer's in 2016. Nobby Peter Stiles was moved to a hospice until he left us on the 30th of October 2020, aged 78. Former Busby Babe John Doty summed him up best. He had been a credit to himself, his family, his club and his country, and that's not a bad way to be remembered. So that was the life and career of a United legend and an England national treasure, Nobby Stiles. What were your favourite memories of him as a player, or even outside the game? Share that with us by commenting below, and if you haven't done so, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you as always for your support.